if he communicates it in terms of the act, if he communicates it lawfully?
No, he doesn't know because it's so wide. One of the principles of legitimacy is that people should know when conduct is lawful and when it is not.
Right.
Now, the applicant's complaint is that the bill is so wide, and to use my brother's example, the man sitting with the information, he doesn't know what the outcome is going to be if he reports.
Regardless of the nature of the actual information, Justice, if it is classified information, if we put aside perhaps the fact that how it was classified or whether it was or how in fact if he believes that there is in fact some sort of unfair or a wrongful play involved, then basically, Justice, what Section 45, how Section 45 reads is that where such disclosure is for a purpose or in a manner authorized by law,
Yes.
then it says a person is guilty and will be punished for a period not exceeding 5 years, except where such disclosure is for a purpose and a manner authorized by law.
But that's who says what is lawful.
And what law? Statute law?
It
Common
has-
law as well? What law?
Is it perhaps not in the interest of freedom of expression that they haven't limited it, that it may only be done in terms of such an act or?
Yes,
And-
but the question is, if it is lawful, who decides in terms of what law?
The courts, Justice, if that becomes the case.
And what then do we do with the act?
If the
Yes, if it is justified in terms of a law outside the act, what's the purpose of the act?
it still serves its purpose, Justice. In fact, one can disclose information in terms of the Disclosures Act, and that is a lawful. What it seeks to prevent essentially is where people like such as information peddlers and hackers and individuals who specialize, and for example, people who specialize in getting information from government, selling it to newspapers and the media, regardless of what that information actually, or of the effect that such information has on the public or on a certain individual's privacy or a company's commercial viability.
Now, if that is the purpose of the act, again, the applicant complains is why don't they simply say so? Why draft a piece of legislation that is so wide?
Justice, can the width, I think we're referring specifically to the question of national interest.
Yes.
Can the width
And
not...
national interest is decided by the politicians of the day, and in your view, by the NIA. So, yes.
Can the question of national interest, Justice, not... Well, before I quickly go into the issue of national interest, that I must just say that ultimately, if the requests in terms of PAIA are still open in terms of Section 35, and where any information is taken to court, the court still decides ultimately. So any wayward sort of classification could result in a jail sentence for that individual. But going back to the issue of the national interest,
Will the judges now be required to sit with assessors from the NIA?
sit with assessors.
Well, you are now saying that if information have been classified wrongly,
Yes, Justice.
and it's the NIA who decides whether it's classified wrongly or not, according to you, the judges won't know because they won't have the information, because the politicians won't tell them. Only the NIA would know. And how will we know what is right and what is wrong?
If I did say that the NIA decides what is wrongful and what is right, the NIA, its job is to monitor and to advise that these considering that they are, and if it comes up at the end and it's found that in fact it is.
But you see, we don't judge in secrecy. That's the problem. And we have to know, and the act, as submitted by the applicant, is to create secrecy, and that's the difficulty. Now, all I'm asking you is this: is secrecy, if we find that the bill encourages secrecy, is that consistent with our Constitution?
Justice, we seem to be viewing secrecy as this great enemy.
Yes.
As this great enemy against the people. Secrecy, Justice. I know there's been quite a lot of criticism of the provision that states secrecy exists to protect the national interests. I know within the bill, but ultimately, Justice, somehow perhaps there's been quite a bit of emotion on the part of the media about this particular provision. And the reality is certain information, as has been acknowledged, and as is a reality in terms of several other foreign jurisdictions, certain information has to be classified. And justice, the secrecy of those information, of that information, and the bill only says that information may be classified for a maximum of 20 years, and then